our show tonight, we have a special guest. He's a veteran. He fought in the Vietnam War, and he's the author of the book The Things They Carry. Tim O'Brien. So Tim, talking about your book, how do you come up with the different characters of your book?
Well, okay, basically I wanted to show, of course, my comrades and, the company itself, but I also wanted to show the soldiers. Every soldier that has fought in the war has gone through these stories that I've told, has gone through trying to escape the war, being afraid, and things like that.
Okay, so at the beginning of your book, we can see that you explicitly say that this book is fiction. But could you explain us if some parts of the book are based on things that actually happened to you, or that you know that happened to other people?
Well, most definitely things that are in the book are based on my experience. But sometimes my experience isn't as good as what I write. Sometimes I have to exaggerate, or sometimes, I just want you to feel what I felt. I want, cause sometimes story truth is more true than happening truth. Just because what really happened, I can't describe, while story truth I can describe right there.
Okay. So, many people, when they saw that they got drafted to the war, they tried to go to Canada or other countries, try to escape this war. What did you feel when you got drafted?
Well, I was definitely very scared. My conscience told me to run, but some resistant, irrational, powerful force told me to stay, told me to resist and stay. And it was mostly shame. And in the end, I went to the war, but I think this is how most of the characters felt, and I wanted to show it in the book. Not just as my story, but as many soldiers that were drafted to this war and many wars feel when they're drafted. They want to escape, but in the end, they don't.
So, you must have lost many good friends, brothers in arms, in the war. How did you feel when the first one died?
Well, the first one was Ted Lavender, and it hit all of us in the company really hard. And most of all, it was Lieutenant Jimmy Cross, who didn't really have his mind in the mission and where they were, because he was thinking about his ex-girlfriend Martha, and he felt shame. And I think this is how most soldiers feel. They think they could have saved them, but in the end, it's not their fault. But they feel guilt and shame just because they couldn't save them.
Everyone that went to war says that their first kill is the hardest one and that they will never forget it. How did you feel when you killed your first man?
Well, I definitely did not hate the young man, but at the time it was very shocking. The story is still with me until now that I'm 43, and I definitely couldn't cope with it. I was very shocked, and I still remember that young man. I think about his life, and I think how each side just fights for what they think is good. So.
Did you know that you most likely would have to kill someone?
Yeah, I did. And I was pretty scared. It was my citizenship, so I did what I thought I needed to do at the time. I wasn't really politically aware of all the aspects of what I was getting involved with. I was rather naive. We were on ambush in pretty thick jungle one morning, and we set up claymores. My partners there blew it off when we heard some movement on the trail. When we went out, we found a very young Vietnamese person with his legs mostly gone. Somehow I ended up in a position of holding the guy in order to get him on a penetrator to a helicopter above so that they could take him back and interrogate him. It was strange, you could disassociate when you're shooting at spots in the jungle, but this guy was right there, and I felt very compassionate, and I was thinking about, his girlfriend, his family, whatever. And it was a moment that I went through that I think it affected me a lot. I didn't feel any personal guilt. I felt sorry for him. My mind at the time was Don't let it bother you, don't think about it, just do it.
Do you think killing is ever justified?
Gosh, I think so. Outside of war, it's mostly never justified. But in war, neither side deserves to die, honestly. I mean, that guy over on that side is fighting for what he believes in, and you're fighting for what you believe in, and both have families and children probably, and it's just not a good thing.